I've seen Andrea Riseborough around for years in different things, but it's not until this past year when I really started paying attention to her, with movies like Death of Stalin and especially Mandy with Nick Cage. And I've always found these weird micro trends that happen in movies fascinating. In this case with the movies Mandy and Nancy, both starring the same person. Both movies with one-word titles with a woman's name. And in both movies she's got this natural look to her, with virtually no makeup on. Well, I guess in Mandy she's got this scar, but otherwise the look is very similar. Now, does that mean anything? Probably not, but it's an interesting coincidence. But other than that, these two movies don't really have much in common beyond the surface. And this is again one of those movies that's really difficult to talk about without going into details. Because a lot of what I liked about it is in the details and the nuance. But the story in this one is about a woman in her 30s who lives with her ailing mother. She works temp jobs and doesn't seem to be too happy, and spends a lot of time online. And very early on you get the impression that she's up to something online. She's got something going on, and that something turns out to be kinda interesting. Well, both disturbing and interesting, and let's just say she's not being completely honest. And then something else happens, and she goes down this other rabbit hole. One that's not directly related to her previous online activities. But it's very much in the same vein. It's basically just increasing the stakes. Taking it a step further, and this time it involves an older couple. But here's the interesting thing about this. You never know exactly how much of her own stories she actually believes. And if she's just lying or if she's sort of wrapped up in her own delusions. But one thing is certain, there doesn't seem to be any malicious intent behind her actions. She does what she does for selfish reasons, to make herself feel better, to fill some sort of void in her life. It's not meant to hurt anyone. And she's not a bad person, and I think that's one of the strengths of the movie. Because it would have been very easy to make her out to be a straight up sociopath, who just does things for her own satisfaction and doesn't really care about anyone else. But that's not really the case here. She does care about other people too, which makes her feel a lot more human and a lot more relatable too. Even though the things she does are things normal people probably wouldn't do. And the main performance here is really good, and Andrea Riseborough basically carries the whole movie. But the supporting cast is really good too, and I don't really have any legit complaints. The story is engaging and the writing is good, so no problems there. The characters are well thought out and I understood their motivations. And toward the end there, it actually turned out to be kinda touching, which I definitely didn't expect early on. And it's sort of funny too in subtle ways. Especially in the beginning, it's got this darkly comedic tone to it, which is kinda replaced by a more serious and sentimental tone toward the end. But on a technical level, it's a well-made movie, but nothing really stood out to me. The editing, the direction, the cinematography, it all works. And now that I think of it, I actually didn't pay any attention to the score. I honestly couldn't tell you if there even was one, which is kinda interesting. But if there wasn't one, I didn't notice that either, so either way it worked. And I can't exactly complain about something I didn't notice. But overall, it's a fairly simple movie on the surface, with a very straightforward plot. Especially once the main plot really gets going after the first 20-30 minutes. But there's a surprising amount of subtlety and depth to it, which combined with the performances really sold me on it. I don't know if I'd call it a great movie, but it's definitely good. And there's just something intangible about it that I really liked. So would I recommend it? Yeah, it's a pretty interesting and different kind of movie. With a great main performance and a surprisingly engaging story. So maybe check it out, maybe don't. I'm not your dad. But I am trying to sell out, so consider liking, subbing, hitting that bell and supporting me on Patreon. Because I really need to get myself another cat and name it Paul. And hey, why not drop a comment below or check out another review? I'd appreciate it. Thanks.